One of the things I've been ranting and raving about for quite some time here on my YouTube channel is the fact that we have no self-defense rights in the UK. We have no way of defending ourselves. We're not even allowed pepper spray, never mind firearms, and I would quite like to see the British Second Amendment become a thing within this country. However, I feel like I've been the only person who's been talking about this at all in the past year or two. However, that has changed very recently as Rupert Lowe has now left the Reform UK party, long story short how that happened, and has started his own political party, or at least trying to get it up off the ground, which is Restore Britain. Now, as part of their kind of manifesto, I think you can say, they've released a lot of things, page isn't loading, that they're wanting to change, such as bringing back the death penalty as well, defund the BBC, I do apologise for this, deport all illegal immigrants, and of course this one, net negative immigration. However, I want to focus solely on this one, which is castle doctrine. The man's home is his castle and he should have every right to defend it and how he sees it. As I've said multiple times as well, I do not have the voice of David Attenborough, so I will pause the, well, I won't pause the video, but I'll zoom in right now, and if you want to read this in peace, I don't blame you. Again, Asperger's Glaswegian with a tongue too big and a mouth too small. But that's just me in a nutshell. So if you want to pause and read this, feel free to as well. But basically, to summarise this whole thing, a man's home is his castle. He should have every right to defend it how he sees it. And the law should not punish him for defending not only himself, but his wife, his family, and his property, and therefore his values as well. And also kind of apply out to public when threats present themselves. Now, once I had a little read through this, unfortunately, I tried to find more information or even look for videos where Rupert Lowe might have mentioned this in an interview, might have went into a lot more detail on this, but unfortunately this is all we have right now. I'm more sure very soon there'll be more and more stuff added to the manifesto, and he'll probably go into a lot more detail in each area, including this one as well. But one of the things as well that I would like to know, and if he's going to deny this, I am not supporting this in any way, shape or form, is if he believes that people should be able to defend not only themselves but their wife, their kid, their property, their valuables, etc, etc, is Rupert Lowe going to allow us to protect said family, property, you know, house, etc, etc, and valuables with weaponry, aka firearms? I really do think that was the worst mistake we made several years ago about just removing all firearms. Yes, you couldn't use them in self-defense situations, which is pretty BS. In fact, less than a year ago, I made a video on a farmer from Gloucestershire who blasted two people who were breaking into his farmhouse at I think it was 1:30 in the morning. He killed one, severely injured the other one, which survived, and the third person just ran away and got away unscathed and was caught hours later in the very early hours of the morning. I think that was justified, but no, that 70-plus-year-old farmer is now going to spend the rest of his life in jail for what he did, which was pretty fucking based in my opinion. If we're not going to be allowed firearms to defend ourselves in any way, shape or form, then I don't see the point. Yes, defend yourself, but don't use tools to defend yourself when criminals also have all sorts of tools to defend themselves. It's absolutely beyond stupid, to say the very least, and I think that needs to change. I want to go over this comment right here. I'll zoom in on it right now, from John. I believe you should be able to conceal carry anywhere. People like to focus on the stats that make headlines in the US, but let's look at the one stat everyone ignores. Defense use of firearms between 300,000 and 5 million cases a year. That ranges from displaying it to using it. This is something that the mainstream media in America and many other countries, in all fairness, do. They will only look at how evil weaponry is, but not how good weaponry is in any way, shape or form. So let's focus on America. Again, they like to talk about how many guns have killed innocent people who didn't deserve it, but they don't talk about how many guns were used to save innocent people from evil people, aka criminals, which is 5 times the amount than victims being claimed by firearms or weaponry as a whole. I know this can't really be reflected in the UK because if you own a butter knife, then you own a weapon of mass destruction here in the UK, and you've got to have a license for your license. Over here, just to own anything, which is just beyond nanny state, which I'll get into very soon on that topic. But again, one of the things I've always thought about, again, just going back on the fact that they genuinely do save innocent people's lives, something that I've mentioned in multiple videos in the past, which is when you look at the Southport attacks or the Manchester Arena bombing or Sarah Everard, who was raped and murdered by that police officer on duty in uniform, or any other attack, or just one-off stabbings or shootings or assaults or gang violence or anything down that line. How many people have been temporarily or permanently injured or have just been murdered and killed outright that could be with us right now if the UK government just allowed people to defend themselves with firearms to carry in public or in private areas like your house or car? How many more people would be alive? How many more people would be suffering from permanent physical or mental injuries due to said incident? How many more people would still have their valuables, such as getting their iPhone snatched in London or their cars jacked in London? In fact, one of my mates who lives up in the north of England had some foreign guy outside his house at like 1:30, 2 in the morning with a laptop and a device. I think they were trying to read his key fob to replicate it so they could unlock his car and get into it and steal it, which, again, just England in a nutshell as well. How many less victims would there be if the situation could have been dealt with on the spot? And even with things like pepper spray, how many situations could have been de-escalated if you could have just blasted them with a hot sauce just to get them to back off, and the police might not even had to have been phoned within that moment? I've always wondered as well, within that, how many more people would be alive in the UK who would have had their whole future ahead of them just ripped away because you're not allowed a weapon, the criminals don't obey the law, they have weapons, get stabbed, get shot, just get your head kicked in, or just get bludgeoned by a claw hammer or whatever may have been used. I genuinely do think that's a human right violation, and I do think that absolutely 100% needs to change. And if Rupert Lowe is only talking about self-defense, but you're not entitled or allowed to own any form of weaponry, I'm sorry, I am not supporting this going forward. I think this needs to be a lot more hardcore for sure. One of the other things as well that I've been thinking about in terms of with the police and citizens owning firearms, I think there could be two very beneficial things for people in the UK to own firearms for self-defense reasons as well, which is, one, it would take a load of weight off the police officers or the police force as a whole, because we live in such an absolute beyond unfathomably just gay police nanny state here in the UK. Anything that is a microscopic issue caused by someone else, phone the police. You have zero agency over yourself, made by the UK. You cannot have agency of any way, shape or form to deal with any problem that you see fit. So every single little microscopic problem, phone the police, phone the police, phone the police, phone the police. Just as an random example, you've got an absolute scumbag neighbour who's absolutely beyond drunk, wasted or steaming, whatever word you want to use, at 9:30 in the morning on a Monday morning. He's shouting and bawling, screaming, music's blaring, he's out in his front property, he's trying to threaten people, and you try to leave to go to work and he's starting to threaten you, climb over the fence or open your gate to get to you. You have to phone the police. Or if you're allowed to be armed with pepper spray, you could just de-escalate the situation, just spray him with the hot sauce, and ta-da, he will go away crying and screaming in pain, but he'll absolutely be 100% fine in the next half an hour to an hour. Can't do that. Phone the police, phone the police, phone the police, phone the police on every single thing, because again, they have full 100% control over us because of what the UK government has deemed. So yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why the police are just getting stretched so thin, because we cannot take situations into our own hands in any way, shape or form. There are other things as well, such as defunding. Again, 1/3 of all police officers will retire in the next 2 years. That was announced well over a year ago, so we're getting dangerously close to that mark now. Nobody's signing up anymore to become a police officer because they pay shit. Police officers and everyone's just getting stabbed and shot in left, right and centre. They're so worried about, oh, if I arrest the wrong person, or if I might say something wrong towards someone, my career might be over, or I might get jail time because I said something that might be offensive. So nobody is signing up to be a police officer anymore because it's just not worth it. And the fact that they've got to come out and the equivalent of come wipe our bums, but go, come out and brush our teeth and hair, get us dressed in the morning for every single little microscopic problem, they've got to come out and deal with it. If we could deal with these much more minor things ourselves, I think that could take a weight off the police officers' shoulders as well. Instead of just having to call them out every single time, we could deal with the situation and just blast them with the hot sauce or the 9mm as well, depending on the severity of the threat. The second thing as well when it comes to the police officers is, I think if we had access to firearms, this could very easily end wokeness overnight, in my honest opinion, at least from the more dangerous side of people being arrested and charged for it. Name me one police officer who would be willing to basically kick down somebody's front door, barge into their house, to arrest somebody because they called a gay person on Facebook or Twitter or whatever a British meatball. Google what a British meatball is. The results may shock you, but what police officer is willing to do that, probably gets shit paid, probably gets shit at his office in the police station as well, is willing to go into a situation to arrest somebody over who you said something a bit spicy online, when the homeowner, the man of the house, has weaponry or firearms. The police officer's going to be like, okay, so you want me to go into this person's door, kick the door down, go in, he's armed to the teeth, because his crime is he called you the big gay-do online. No, I'm not going in, I'm not sending my men in to die. No, sorry, not worth it. I think if the situation was we've got blatant evidence this guy's an absolute beyond monster, he's a serial killer, he's a child predator as well, he's just scammed people out of millions, he's a very notorious gang leader, etc, etc. I think the police would be more inclined, because I feel like a lot of police officers do genuinely want to get proper criminals off the streets, and they know they're laying their life down for this job, and again, I do respect them for doing it, I genuinely do, but I think in those situations they might be a bit more inclined, and obviously it's not going to be regular police officers, it's going to be armed police officers dealing with people like this as well. But to potentially lose your life and your fellow officers over the fact that you went, ha ha ha, you're a big, British cigarette or something like that, they're not going to charge into someone's house anymore. So I think this whole kind of mass rampage up and down the UK of people being arrested for mean words online would just die overnight, which again, I would agree with, because again, it's beyond disgusting. Like Lucy Connolly and Wayne O'Rourke, sick of it on Twitter, who got years shoved up their arse for one singular post on a social media platform. Again, beyond absolutely disgusting, to say the very least. And I think that would end that overnight. One of the other things, before I wrap this video up, that I was thinking about is the economy. If we could have access to firearms, obviously that would be a lot of money to be spent on the weaponry, the attachments, the upgrades, the magazines, the ammo, the carry cases, the cleaning equipment, and blah blah blah, so on and so forth. Imagine the absolute amount of money that could bring into the economy in every way, shape or form. Again, all the money spent that would probably be taxed within gun shops up and down the UK as well. People going to gun ranges to shoot and to practice, to hang out with their fellow friends who might be gun enthusiasts as well. Again, importing from other countries like America and even Germany with the firearms as well could potentially bring more money into the UK. And again, just as another little thought, but if a burglar or someone who's trying to murder you gets the 9mm or the 12 gauge and they're off in the forever box going forward, well, we don't have to pay taxes to keep them in a prison cell for the next few decades, do we? That problem resolves itself pretty much on the spot, and I think with the amount of money that we could bring in, again, hosting events and even like GunCon, or like basically gun festivals as well, and again with everything else that you can think to combine this, to generate a ridiculous amount of money into the UK, which again, we desperately need that money. Something that I made, I think, back in October, and it's been reflected again within UK news, and yep, communist and socialist. If socialists and communists understood economics, then they wouldn't be socialist or communist. But tens upon tens of thousands of multi-millionaire and billionaires are just leaving the UK. And there goes all that money, all their businesses who are supplying hundreds, if not thousands of jobs up and down the UK, gone. All because we just think this idea of taxing people, the richest people or the poorest people, into oblivion is the right way to go. Again, rich multi-millionaires and billionaires have multiple passports or visas and probably have multiple houses in multiple countries. They can just pack up shop, fly out and never come back. And again, I think it's the top 1% roughly contributes 30% of the UK tax pot, and the other 9%, therefore the top 10%, contribute roughly about 51% of the UK tax pot, and we're chasing these people out of the country. We desperately need the money, and I think with the whole thing that I mentioned about firearms and how good it could be for the economy, we generally do need that money as well. And I think it could bring a lot of communities together to share similar interests as well, and just to make overall people safer. Again, it's just an absolute win-win-win-win-win situation going forward. And as I say, I really do feel like self-defense as a whole here in the UK has been so beyond frowned upon, whether it's just been able to punch somebody back or to shoot somebody down who's a threat to life or your property. And I think it is about time that we can change, that we should change that going forward. Again, never talked about, no matter if you're left wing, right wing, or pro-reform, or pro-Labour, or whatever it may be, nobody has ever really talked about this in well over 20 years. And in fact, within this image right here, Rupert Lowe asked the question if they're going to change the laws and rules about self-defence in any way, shape or form. Of course, she responded as well, who's in charge, saying, no. And again, this was in 16th of June 2025, so about 2 weeks ago that she responded, and again, nothing has changed whatsoever. If Rupert Lowe is one, oh, I forgot this image as well, I'll leave it on here. If Rupert Lowe is really going to change this going forward, allow self-defence, allow people to carry in public and private with concealed carry, and at home allow shotguns and rifles for self-defence, I am 100% down for that. I think we desperately need this going forward, and I think the laws need to be blatantly black and white to basically say, okay, is somebody breaking into your house? Deal with that situation how you feel free, no scrutiny or consequences from the UK government, therefore the UK police. And I think it needs to be that simple as well. Basically what the Russian is saying over here. And I think one of the things we need to do going forward, let's just pretend this all happens and I'm 100% correct, and this Rupert Lowe becomes the next Prime Minister of the UK, and we can get access to firearms for self-defence purposes in public or in private. I think one of the things we need to do, because we're little tiny babies who don't know any better when it comes to firearms, we are not exactly America, especially like Texas or Arizona, for example. I feel like if you have to go through multiple months of training and basically passing practical and theory exams for your driving license, I think it should be the same for firearms license. You need to go to an indoor or outdoor gun range, have an instructor have private lessons with you to teach you how to fully master a handgun, a shotgun, and a semi-automatic rifle. And once you've mastered that, you will be educated through a gun school about the safeties, the laws in the UK. And once you've passed your theory and practical and you score, let's just say 75% out of 100% or more, then you can have your gun license. And what you have to do for your final interview is go to a police station with a 1v1 conversation with a police officer there who has the training within firearms. You will go, you acknowledge that every round that leaves your chamber you are 100% responsible for. If you damage somebody's property or injure someone or even take an innocent person's lives, you will be charged with said crimes. So on and so forth. Tick this box, tick this box, tick this box to acknowledge that you accept this. Sign here. This whole thing's recorded. That gets processed. 2 weeks later, your gun license comes in there through your letterbox. I think that would be the way to do it. I could go into more detail, but the video's already getting a bit too long. I think this really does need to change. Again, think of all the lives that have been taken because you have to stand there with your thumb up your arse going, oh, that's another kid stabbed, oh, that's another kid gone, oh, an adult's been stabbed in the neck, I can't do anything, I don't have weaponry. And a lot of people do rant and rave about, oh, why don't men step into dangerous situations anymore in the UK? Why should we? If we jump in, we're just going to die. We can't stop somebody with a machete with our bare hands, or even a gun, or acid, or just a 10-pound 6-inch Argos kitchen knife. What are we meant to do? We're not exactly martial arts experts. We can't carry a weapon. We're just going to throw ourselves into the meat grinder. So I think there could be a lot of innocent lives saved. I think this could generate a lot of money into the UK. I think this could stop the police from just breaking into people's houses and arresting and charging them because they called somebody a British cigarette online to a gay person, etc, etc. I think this could lift a lot of weight off of the police officer's shoulders in the more minor instances where pepper spray could be used. I disagree with tasers and stun guns because they fail over 70% of the time. So again, little minor de-escalations, pepper spray, don't need to phone the police to take a lot of weight off their shoulders. And yeah, overall, I do think this needs to come to the UK, the British Second Amendment. But I'm going to wrap the video up there. Thank you very much for tuning in. It's greatly appreciated. If you could like, subscribe, hit the bell notification and leave a comment down below if you agree or disagree with anything that I've said throughout this video. And if you think I've missed anything of key importance, again, leave that comment down below. I will respond ASAP as well. Also, in regard to the other stuff here from the manifesto, I think I'll make a separate video, therefore part 2. as well on Monday or Tuesday as well. I'll get round to talking about this stuff, like the death penalty, defund the BBC, deport illegals, and net negative immigration as well. If you want to follow me on X or Twitter, whatever you like to call it, you can absolutely do so right here. And again, it's at rant-A-holic. Links to all my other platforms are in the pinned top comment as well, including my Discord server, which has UK news, USA news, and European news, and other news that gets spam updated with far more trustworthy news outlets and other right-wing YouTubers or politicians or just journalists as a whole for more trustworthy news. Again, links to all of that in the pinned top comment. But yeah, I love yous all, and as always, keep on rolling. Have a great day and a better week to follow. See yous!